Mm, wow. Oh, hello there. I didn't notice you were here. You probably might have caught me, reading this book, the Holy Bible. I mean, this book has been so corrupted, it has been so altered that it literally changed my life. I'll probably be destroying someone's daughter's life, or maybe their son, who knows. But thanks to this book, I'm right here, changing people's life and helping them with this same corrupted book. But by the way, that's no reason why we're here. At our previous episode on Why I Became a Christian by Sultan Muhammad Paul, we considered the first 4 chapters of this book. We considered the author's request. Key among this request is his question: what is the proper way to read the Holy Bible? Speaking of which, our previous episode, generated quite a few feedbacks, part of which is not this, where a viewer, questioned the credibility of the Bible because, according to the person, he claimed that the Bible supported an advanced slave trade, particularly within the context of Nigeria as a nation. But that is not what I'm here to do today. We also considered the first encounter of Sultan Muhammad Paul with Christians, which led to his desire to argue with Christians and refute what the Bible teaches. Today, we are going to see how he took these desires to the next level. So come along with me, and I think this is a good time to click the subscribe button. Let's go. At our previous episode, we saw how that Sultan Muhammad Paul began his studies in Delhi, India. And when he was done, he moved to Bombay. Bombay in modern days is what you're going to call Mumbai. It was renamed Mumbai in the year 1995 in order to do away with the colonial heritage and to honor the original residents of that place. So it was changed to Mumbai in 1995. Now, in Bombay, Sultan Muhammad encountered 2 scholars who helped him and who tutored him. The first is Maulavi Hidayatullah, who was an expert in literature, a scholar in that field. He promised to give him guidance and tutor him, and he also gave him access to his library, unrestricted access to his library. The second is Maulavi Abdul Ahad. This was a professor of logic and philosophy who promised him tutorship, also promised him guidance and instruction. The one other thing that this man did to help Sultan Muhammad Paul is a very golden one. He gave him a room beside his own, so that whenever Sultan Muhammad Paul needed his help, he was at his fingertip and he could get his help. Now, these are the 2 figures that added to his learning and his exploration on religious matters. As a matter of fact, this calls to question, with such great men behind Sultan Muhammad Paul, what could have led him to give his life to Christ, to accept the Lordship of Jesus Christ? It calls to question, and we're going to find out what happened and why did he become a Christian eventually, after all this help that he has received from these mighty men in their fields. And this is what we're going to discover in the coming chapters. How do you feel when you thought that you've left your enemies at a previous location, only to discover that they are in your new location? Horrible, right? Let's ask Sultan Muhammad Paul. On this certain day, he was taking a walk with his Muslim accomplice, and he arrived at a location named Dobi Talab. It's a district in Bombay. And when they got there, he found out that there were some Christian preachers preaching around that area. And immediately he saw them, he said, "My old enmity was aroused. as I recalled my previous experience in Delhi. This was what happened on that very day. Immediately he saw these Christian preachers. He decided to charge towards them, but one of his friends stopped him and tried to convince him not to challenge them, saying that the Christians do not know how to go about debating. But Sultan Muhammad Paul made a statement, and this was what he said: I know all about these people. They may not know the arts and rules of debate, but they certainly know how to lead people astray. It is the duty of every true Muslim to rescue his thoughtless Muslim brethren from their plotting and deception. Wow, and that is the heart of many Muslims. They think that what the Christians go about doing is trying to deceive others, but the attempt of his friend to stop him from charging towards this Christian failed. He went ahead and started raising objections against Christianity. But this discussion didn't last long, and because of the want of time, they stopped. But this event took place in the students' area, and you know what that means. The news of these events spread very quickly among the students, and it says it this way: news of our encounter soon spread among the students of the school. They too were fired with zeal to engage in controversy, and this place became a location of debate. They met there twice weekly to debate Christians. And on one of those days, some missionaries invited Sultan Muhammad and some of his accomplices to their home to study and investigate Christianity. And I think I really appreciate this about Sultan Muhammad and some of his accomplices, of course, that he kept an open heart. And on the request of Sultan Muhammad and some of his accomplices, this missionary decided to open a reading room close to his school so that they could meet there and debate and also carry out investigation and study. And not long afterward, Sultan Muhammad Khan and a few of his friends formed a society named Nadwatul Mutakalimin, which is aimed at preparing controversialists against all non-Islamic religions with special reference to Christianity. And that is not all that there is to it. This final part of this chapter is the icing on the cake. And not long afterward, Sultan Muhammad Khan got to a point where it looked as though he had no other life purpose than to debate Christians. And one of those days, after he had finished praying, he was reading the Injil, which is called the Gospel. And after that, Malavi Abdulahad, the professor of logic and philosophy who gave him a room beside his, came into his room after that prayer and engaged with him in conversation. And this was how the conversation went. He asked me what I was reading. I told him, and he responded angrily, I fear lest you become a Christian. Sultan Muhammad Paul was so provoked with this statement, and he thought to himself, how can you say that I'll become a Christian just because I was reading this Injil, which is called the Gospel? And here is what Maulavi Abdullah had responded with. He replied, I said this because I have heard that he who reads the Injil becomes a Christian. Have you not heard what a certain poet said? When he reads the Injil, the heart of the faithful one turns away from Islam. And I tried to find some information online to see where this saying could have emanated. Although I couldn't find the source of this statement, I found some interesting discoveries online. I found that a question that was asked by a Muslim, I believe, asking if a Muslim could read the Holy Bible. And this was the response. And after this moment of dialogue between the two, the professor left him and returned to his own room. It appeared as though this conversation made Sultan Mohammed Paul more hungry and desirous to win Christians in argument. But little did we know that this would only be the start of his journey to Christianity. There is something in this chapter that really fascinated me, and that is the prayer of Sultan Mohammed Paul. Now, I've been a Christian for a while, and every time I go out on the field to preach the gospel, I encounter Muslims. And this is the exact prayer that I ask every sincere Muslims to pray, especially those who are doubtful. To give you a little bit of context, after a while, Sultan Muhammad Khan decided to make his journey to Mecca to fulfill the pilgrimage. And on the day of the pilgrimage, he climbed up to Mount Arafat and he saw a beautiful sight. And this is what he said about the sight that he saw. On that day, I saw a wonderful sight. The rich and poor, the high and low, all dressed in the same white garment. It looked as if all the dead, clad in their shrouds, had emerged from their graves to render their accounts. The sight brought tears to my eyes, but at the same time, a thought struck me, and this thought that struck him would become the genesis of his search for the true and living God. Look at the thought. He said, if Islam is not the true religion, what will my condition be on the day of resurrection? And this is very important. There is this statement that I heard, that if your truth is scared of scrutiny, then it is not worth holding on to. That is, whatever truth claim cannot be proven, cannot be tested, is not worth holding on to. And that is exactly what happened with Sultan Muhammad Paul. Now here is the prayer that he prayed, and this is the same prayer that I ask every genuine Muslim that I encounter while preaching the gospel. I ask them to pray this prayer. Then and there, I prayed to God, "O God, show me the true religion and your true way. If Islam is the true religion, keep me steadfast in it and grant me grace to silence the opponents of Islam. If Christianity is the true religion, then reveal its truth to me. Amen." Now that is really important because it takes a genuine heart to search after the true God. I say to people, I'm not a Christian just because I was born as a Christian. A time came when I really indeed scrutinized the religion that I practiced to know whether it was the true religion or not. At that point, I was studying both Christianity and Islam to find out which religion was the truth. And I believe many others have gone through this search and have found that Christianity is the truth. But let's see how Sultan Muhammad found out the true religion as he progressed. Upon his arrival from Mecca, he found out that the society that he had formed, Nadwatul Mutakalimin, he found out that this society was already disbanded, but he formed another society where he trained others to raise objection against Christianity and every other religion. This time, he was the president of this society. And there are some key figures that I would like to name for the next chapters. One, Abdul Rauf, was the secretary. Munshi Mansur Masih was a Christian debater that came regularly to debates with the society formed by Sultan Muhammad, and he will play a key role in the journey of Sultan Muhammad Paul. Thank you very much for joining on this chapter. See you at the next one. But if you have not subscribed, subscribe now. Share with your friends and loved ones, especially your Muslim brothers and sisters. See you on the next one. Bye.